One of my favorite all-time academic classes was speech. The favorite thing that I'd love to do is the teacher would tell us all to write just a random subject or something to talk about on a piece of paper. We'd all put those in a bucket or a hat, and then one by one, we'd have to reach in, grab a subject, and then we'd have 30 seconds or a minute to prepare a speech. And then they would just call us up to the front, and we would have to deliver that. I loved it. I remember getting the one, it was popcorn. And immediately I was like, okay, categories of popcorn. Where was it invented? And you got to make up stuff because you don't know it. We were encouraged to make up things. So I had a whole thing about popcorn and the kinds that are good. And I remember when I was a kid and having pink popcorn, that was my favorite, all these sorts of things, right? The movies, you could just think about all the different things that play into that and build a speech or a talk around that. And we'd have to talk for like 5 minutes. I could do that easily. The thing is, it reminds me of a meeting I just came out of. So I had a meeting with my two EAs, with my two remote executive assistants. I do those on Mondays. And I was just talking. I had all these thoughts and things, and I just wanted to kind of pour these thoughts out and get feedback. And I was talking to someone through a lunch club connection last week, and he was talking about how he read one of my LinkedIn articles recently and how it reminded him that thinking partners are an important thing. So I started thinking about how I utilize my assistants as thinking partners. So here's what I mean. Like, you may have an idea, it's not completely fleshed out, but you want to communicate that to someone, or you want to implement it in your business, or you want to talk to a client about it, but you're not ready to talk to someone outside your business about it yet. So you can bring those ideas to a meeting with your remote executive assistant, and they can help you think through it. Number one, that helps you to clarify your thinking. It helps you to frame it in a way or create a conversation or language around it that somebody else might understand it. So that's the first thing it helps you do is create a way to talk about it. Because when it just lives in your head, it makes sense to you, but it may not make sense to anybody else around you. So it is important to get it out of your head. You can write it out, that might help, but it also helps to talk about it with somebody else. And if you can communicate in a way that makes sense for them, maybe you have something. Here's some other ways that they can help you perfect your thinking as a thinking partner. Number one, provide thoughtful feedback. That doesn't make any sense to me, or yeah, that makes a lot of sense, or it reminds me of this, or it connects to this. The second thing is they can be a brave sounding board. So for me, I give them permission to say, that's ridiculous. That's dumb. That won't work. And here are the reasons why. Because there's no fear. They can say exactly what they think. And if it doesn't make sense, I want to know because I want them to tell me immediately so I don't waste time on it. The other thing is a perspective shifter. So maybe what you say sparks them to think something, and then they can help you think through a way to say that makes more sense, or adjust the concept or the content that would make more sense to somebody else. The other thing is they can be an idea implementator. So that's someone who doesn't just hear the idea, but they're also thinking through what are all the little steps that have to happen to make this happen? What are all the little tiny parts of this? Or how can we create an SOP around this? Or how can we create a list of things that would have to happen for this to come to fruition? This morning we were talking about how we might create a podcast for Dream Support, telling the stories of clients and EAs and things like this along the way. And we started talking about what are the specific steps. So I had this idea we need to do this at some point. I'm not sure when, but here are some steps we actually have to make happen, like putting it on a regular schedule. You know, how many do we have to have pre-done before we release it? How do we get guests? And what's the cadence? And how do we communicate with those guests? All these different things you've got to do to create the idea, to make it happen. The other thing is they can be confidential support. So what you share with them is not public. It's not for them to talk to anyone else about. It's just for you and them. It's confidential. And so there's no fear there as well. So having a thinking partner in your executive assistant can be revolutionary for you, especially for those of us who are more like solopreneurs. Like, we're used to being on our own and working on things on our own, and we join networking groups or masterminds to get feedback and talk to other people and learn from them. But also your remote executive assistant can also work in that same capacity to help you think through these things, clarify your thinking. So I hope that's helpful to you. If it is, Share this with somebody you think it would be great for. Share it with your assistant. Share it with your client, whomever it may be. And if you need an assistant, I'd be glad to help you. Just reach out. All right. God bless.